it was like so short. It was just like fucking for the sake of being like, yeah, I just fucked in the club in the bathroom. Woo! Like there was no pleasure.
That was me on Valentine's Day this year.
You're listening to Fucks Given, the one with Zoe Ligon, aka Thongria. Hello, Reed. How are you this Thursday?
Don't really know how I feel. Don't really know. I had like such a mad week last week. Lots of tears, lots of feeling low and rubbish. And I feel like I'm coming out the other end, but definitely just like running on fumes, you know, exhausted. I've got like one of them headaches. It's just like, please slow down. And I'm like, no,
I don't want to. Yeah, I feel like everyone's going through a bit of a weird time at the moment. Most people that I talk to have been dealing with some really, really low moments. And I guess that's just where the world is at right now. That's our like collective energy, is just dealing with a lot of shit that's going on. I mean, the world is fucked. So
yeah, it's miserable and shitty, and it doesn't help if you're in the UK. The weather's been so crap, and we've just had like an extra long winter. We're supposed to be in summer. It's supposed to be heat waves, and we have none of that to help us through, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
Do you have any updates? Last week you left us on a cheeky cliffhanger, and I need to know.
Yes, because I broke my vow of celibacy and got fucked.
Oh, shit.
And yeah, so I had sex with college man / it's like college boy, but then college boy sounds so bad.
I love that. That's so good.
He was like teasing, and he was like, I'm going to tease you until you beg me for my cock.
Oh my God. The motherfucking fantasy dream that most of us think about.
Yeah. And that worked me up. I was like gagging for the dick at that point, like gagging for the penetration. When he entered me, it was like a fucking key in the lock. And I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting this. And I haven't come from penetration all year. And it was hard for me last year too. I came with 1 minute of his dick being inside in me. And I was like shocked. I was like, what is happening? Like, this is too good. And I was like, fuck, I'm coming. Like, but not in a like, I'm coming, like cute way. It was like a, I'm coming. Like, what the hell?
I can imagine you like screaming at him like, I'm coming. I'm so angry about it.
And you know what? And I didn't really want to be coming that soon either, because I wanted to work my way into it and like, you know, feel that like build and stuff. But it just happened so quickly, which wasn't a bad thing. It was fucking amazing. And his dick just hit the right spot, and we had sex like a few more times in the morning, and every single time his dick made me come, like at least 2 times during each session. And I was just like, what is happening? And we did a bit of like role play stuff, like daddy role play, and I was really trying to get more vocal, because it's something that I have been a bit stuck on, I think, finding the confidence to actually talk during sex and like be like, yes, that feels really good, and like be a little bit more communicative but in a sexy way. And sometimes it takes me a long time to be able to call someone daddy in the bedroom, but for some reason I was like, this feels right.
And sometimes it's immediate.
Sometimes it's just, I mean, he's like, he's good because he's like, he's going to be a counselor. So he's got that good communication skills, man. And he makes me feel safe, you know?
But like, why are they so goddamn hot? Like any therapists, counselors, anyone that does work on the brain. Oh my goodness. It's like, I'm fetishizing them right now. Like you tell me you're a therapist and you're fucked. You're fucked.
Yeah, there's something cool about it. But yeah, I had a great experience. And that was my little, I think it was a good way to break the celibacy, to be fair.
Yeah, it had to happen. Yeah, and especially because it sounded like he really took his time with you. It wasn't just a like a fuck and a leave. It was like, we're going to take our time over this and make it.
He slept over.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Lots of cuddles too. All the things that I've been really missing, actually. Like, he like lingered in the morning, like stayed until like afternoon, and we were like in bed the whole morning, like fucking, cuddling, kissing, talking, all of that good stuff.
God, it's so nice when you get like good dick. Yeah. And it's a good lay.
Yeah. Feels like a big sigh of relief.
I guess on my side, I've been dating quite a bit. Yeah. I've actually got a date tonight, which I'm really excited for. But I wanted to say one of my dates said this really interesting thing. One of his best friends is gay and took him to a gay club to party. And he was saying while he was in the toilet, this dude comes up behind him and starts like stroking and massaging his back. And he's like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird. Turns around, he's like, oh, sorry, man, like I'm straight. And what the gay guy says to him was, now you know how women feel, and walks off. Right? Right? I was shocked when he told me this on our date. I was like, it's so smart and clever and brutal and violating and like I don't know how to fucking feel about the whole thing. And I was like,
about that either. Because I'm like,
wow,
yes, that is how we fucking feel, man.
That is how we fucking feel. But also, that isn't nice. And also,
it's not okay to do that.
No, the guy knowing full motherfucking well what he's doing and almost saying it just as a bit of like a nasty retaliation, like, now I'm going to fuck with your head. I don't know. The whole thing was fucked up, but like really fascinating. I had to share it.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. That is wild.
So I think I mentioned my sex worker dungeon day last time. If I haven't, then I'm going to tell you anyway. I ended up booking... So I'm doing my sex worker sessions again, my in-person sex worker sessions, which I've stopped for the length of time that I was in a relationship for.
Yeah.
Which sucked balls. And started them up again. And my speciality is foot worship meets, is domination sessions, and now I'm doing tickle sessions. So I booked my friend's dungeon, which is one of my favourite spaces, and... You know what? I had 4 people booked in that day, and throughout the week, 3 of them dropped off like flies. 3 of them. And I was like, I wasn't really expecting much, but I was like, okay, whatever. One person who did book me in paid his deposit, but still was a no-show. Not even cancelled, just didn't turn up and didn't message or say anything. Yeah, I didn't even know that people did that. No one turned up, but I've been chatting to a lot of people about this dungeon day and ended up speaking to someone who was interested in a foot worship meet. And lo and behold, we emailed and he was like, are you free now? And I was like, yes, I'm absolutely free. So he came from work and of course I had to be a bit careful on the safety there. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm in a dungeon space. There's no humans around. So I don't know this person. So, made him send me a picture of himself first and photo ID. I already had him on social media, so that was kind of fine. But I made him pay for the money. I made him pay me before he even got through the door.
Yeah.
And then it was honestly, when he got there, was the most empowering and nicest foot worship session. And it is what's made me fall in love with doing my in-person meets again. It was so good. And he was so lovely and friendly and really chatty and very respectful. And then when it came to actually worshipping my feet, he just did everything that was perfect. You know, like he was mesmerized, he was stunned, he was shocked, he was like everything. And it was just the most incredible experience. And I'm there hovering my feet over him, just being like, I cannot believe I have this much power in my feet. And he's just there like, oh my God, they're perfect. They're beautiful. I can't believe this is happening. And I'm like, yeah, you fucking better believe it. So yeah, it was so great. And I also ended up doing a photo shoot that evening in the same space because the person who manages the space was like, oh, I'm free. Like, let's do some content together. And she has an OnlyFans. And so we created a bunch of content together, including two of my very first, like, well-produced tickle videos.
Amazing.
So, yeah. And they are both available to buy through OnlyFans or through my email if you want them. It's like one's full body naked, like tickle torture, oil, brushes, nipple torture. And the other one is like sitting up, feet, brushes. It's really good. Like I had a really great time with Stevie. She was great at being like an evil tickle mistress. And I got something out of it as well. I really thoroughly enjoyed the whole time. So yeah, I basically had a ticklegasm and I safed word.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's like, for me, that's almost the orgasm in itself when it comes to tickling. I want to get to the point where I can't take it anymore. And then sometimes if I'm in with someone that I really trust, then they push me past my limit. That's like the dream. But I safe word, which is basically like my verbal ejaculation. And yeah, and that's available to buy. 15 minutes of pure tickle torture.
15.
And then the second one was 19 minutes. Wow. Yo. It's never enough though for me. It's never enough. I'm like, give me more. Yes.
That's how I feel about people sucking my boobs. I'm like, don't stop.
Yeah, don't you dare stop. Do this.
Why would you do that? Yeah. Like hours. Yes. I want to be so sore that I'm pushing you off me.
Yeah, but still keep doing it because it's just, I'm just going fucking calm, you know.
Yeah, man.
Shall we get Zoe on? I'm really excited to chat to her.
Let's do it. Iconic Zoe Ligon, Thongria on Instagram. Really excited to talk to her.
Yeah, let's go.
Hey, Zoe. We're so excited to have you here.
Hello. Good to be here.
Oh, it's so nice to have you on. We've been following you and seeing what you do from a distance, from across the pond, and we just absolutely love everything that you are about. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Sun's out in Michigan. I'm overall just kind of like have my head down and grinding on work in a lot of ways. Got a 3D printer this weekend, messing around with that for sex toy related purposes, and life's good. I can't complain. How are you guys?
That's beautiful. For our curious fuckers out there who might not know who you are, can you explain a little bit about who you are and what you do?
I'm Zoe Ligon, also known as Thongria on the internet. I own a sex toy store called Spectrum Boutique, which I am the owner of. And I have published a book called Carnal Knowledge, Sex Education You Didn't Get in School. But I also do content creation, the old OnlyFans. I also make art and various things. Mm-hmm. So I wear a lot of hats, but I'd say I'm a business lady in my day-to-day life mostly.
I remember seeing like a really long time ago a video of you trying out shibari, and it was, I think, one of the first times I'd ever really learned about that. And that video made me tear up. It made me emotional. It was like such an interesting watch, and seeing your experience with the teacher was like, wow. Like I really wanted to try shibari after that.
Yeah, that was definitely all thanks to Midori, who I still consider one of my closest friends in the world of sex ed to this day. She's taught me a lot, especially if you want to learn about kink-related stuff and BDSM stuff and quote-unquote feminine dominance, female dominance, whatever that means to you.
Yeah. She's
really great in all those departments. And I had a great time making that video. It was back when I had my internet web series called Sex Stuff. So that's, 5 or 6 years ago now. But that's how a lot of people found me, I think. It was one of my favorite things I've done, just as far as had such a fun time doing that. Really feel like of all things I put out onto the internet that had a really positive reception. And I was delighted that a sex thing didn't get more. That's so bleak that I'm like, I'm glad I wasn't harassed more, but it went really well. It went over really well. And I made a lot of great friends for life from that.
Amazing.
From the people I worked with to the people who were actually working behind the cameras. Got some best friends for life out of that experience.
You honestly are like one of the superstars in this space. So, you know, like we are forever grateful as well for all the work that you've been doing and inspired so many other people to really get to know themselves and their bodies and sex. It's really honorable.
It'll never not be weird to hear that because I don't know. I think it's...
You're just being yourself.
Mostly, I mean, we're all a version of ourselves online and we all change things for an internet audience. But yeah, there's no, it's me. And, you know, it wasn't all that long ago that this stuff was really scary and intimidating to me. And, you know, even in my regular day-to-day life, I'm not like this person who has it all figured out. Mm-hmm. I just really love having a laser beam focus on sex, and obviously sex toys are particularly my lane. But yeah, these are just things that changed my life, and I like talking about them to other people. And I'm honestly just as lost and swimming in the soup of misinformation as everybody else. And I appreciate
and the
you
constant
saying that.
threat of being taken down and demonetized and like, having your Instagram account being taken away. Yeah, we feel that. We feel that hard. So we've asked you a little like icebreaker at the beginning of the episode in homage to our old episodes. Can you tell us one of the above, which is your best fuck story, your worst fuck story, your what the fuck story, your fantasy fuck story, or your, am I missing one, Florence?
The fuck that changed the game.
The fuck that changed the game.
Okay, what comes to mind is definitely a what the fuck. Or just like it's just a good story. It's like a silly one, and it kind of has like a takeaway to it as well. I was in Stockholm visiting a friend of mine who lived there. This is like more than 10 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And it was the dead of winter in Stockholm, and there was a party, and this guy, like a friend of a friend, was there, and we ended up having sex in a bathroom at this club, which, like, that's not that unusual, right? Like, that's...
Yeah.
I mean, for that time in my life, that's not unusual. The fun part of the story, quote unquote, is then it was like so short. It was just like fucking for the sake of being like, yeah, I just fucked in the club at the bathroom. Woo! Like there was no pleasure.
That was me on Valentine's Day this year. Yeah.
But then I like exit the bathroom. I have no idea how discreet I actually was or wasn't being. And this is like, I'm cringing just thinking about this time in my life. But I was like, why does my vagina feel weird? And I just kind of like walked over to a corner of the dance floor, and I felt the condom half sticking out of my vagina still. And I just like, I want to say it was discreet. It's just like so unacceptable. Just like, so I pulled the condom out and I disposed of it in the trash, and hopefully I washed my hands afterwards.
Hopefully. We never do.
It probably, I mean, again, it's like not my proudest moment, but I love sex stories where like the tampon was still in, just like bad moments where I'm just like, what's happening in my life? So the moral of the story is when you're having sex with a condom, and you know, the pull out at the end is happening, hold on to the goddamn base of the condom, even if it's fitting perfectly, just for extra safety, hold on to the base of the condom. You'll save yourself a moment like that. If that, I don't even know if that is like a thing that regularly happens to people. Hopefully not. But condoms come off inside of you. That does happen. Yep. Hold on to the base of the condom when you're pulling out after intercourse.
Do you feel like maybe when you were on the dance floor, you were like leaking cum unknowingly as you were going, as you were...
They
talking about?
Like a skirt. I had like underwear on. I think I had something on. I wasn't just fully flapping in the wind.
I was thinking like dress or skirt for some reason.
It was a skirt, but I had panties on. It was dead of winter, so I actually had tights on, so I can guarantee there was no cum dripping.
I don't know why that's grossing me out. Like underwear is fine to come in, but tights, I'm like, oh no, the juicy cum all in the tights. Like,
Yeah,
not kink shaming anyone with the nylons or tight fetish at all. Like that's, it's hot. Don't yuck someone's yum.
That was not the vibe. It was just straight up bad decisions. I mean, not bad decisions, but just like gross club moments that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, when you get like fingered on the dance floor and you think you're amazing, you're just like, oh my God, I just got fingered on the dance floor. And you're like, what? Who are you? This is
definitely
gross. What's
had
on
that
their
moment when I was 17.
I would have to be in rare form to want to do that. Like, there'd have to be an exceptional circumstance for me to want to go fuck in a club toilet. So congrats to anyone who does feel that, because I would need like to be horny level 100.
Yes,
I had a really great experience
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, like fucking in the club toilets, but it wasn't really a club. It was more like a big ridiculous bar, and we were so fucked, and we were fucking just to fuck. Like it was his birthday. I don't know. I just dragged him in there, fucked him, and I was like, okay, bye, have a nice night.
It was his birthday.
It was his birthday. And I only remember it was his birthday because I remember that cringe moment while I'm fucking and be like, happy birthday. Oh. And then I woke up the next morning hungover like, oh my God, my soul, what have I done? So good. Best birthday ever.
Best birthday ever. Oh my God.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're fucking welcome.
Yeah. That's a good moral though, to hold on to your condoms, because I've definitely had that, not in a public situation, but I've definitely had the condom hanging out of me. And it's such a weird, why is it such a weird feeling? It feels so bizarre, and like taking it out also feels weird.
Like a weird, like, shock to the system. Like, it's a violation in a weird way where it's like, you're just, I don't know, you're just like, how has this happened? It's just very odd. Or when you lose things up you, like when you've actually finally you're like, I think I put a tampon up me, and maybe you were drunk or something, and then you feel there's a tampon in there when you just don't remember putting one in there, and you're like, oh fuck.
I think what you're getting at is having, like, so with the tampon you have the string hanging out, and then with the condom having like a little bit of, it's like having that material in the vaginal opening, kind of like slightly being moved around, but it's like latex,
half in, half
out. Or a latex replacement, and it's just kind of like moving around in there. Even so, I'm a menstrual cup gal these days, but when I was wearing tampons, I would always tuck the string up inside, just like, excuse me. I would just kind of like be like, let's tuck that up in there too, because the bacteria on the string, even if it was just like whatever was, in my underwear or whatever, I was just like, I don't like having a literal string that could be holding on to bacteria that's rubbing up against my urethra at all times. I'd rather just tuck it on up in there and fish it out later.
That's so
I've never seen it like that, because I suppose I see a brand new condom string. Wow, imagine a brand new tampon string is just like new underwear. But who knows? Like, you got to do what makes you feel comfortable, right?
Yeah, always. So, as it's Masturbation Month, would you mind telling us a little bit about how you masturbate?
Well, I would say it comes in waves. There's times when I feel like masturbating.
In your mind, it's like I've got like the pretty, sexy, attractive masturbation, and then I've got the one that's just like super quick and like the one that no one sees masturbation.
Yeah, but if I've learned anything through recording stuff for OnlyFans, it's that people like watching that too. There's no such thing. If someone wants to watch you masturbate, it's not like there's like an ugly way to masturbate. Yeah. It definitely comes in waves where I'm feeling it more times than others, and sometimes a long time will pass, a week or so, where I'm just like, it's like medicinal at a certain point where you're just like, wow, I felt like shit and now I feel great. But I'm a wand vibrator and dildo gal.
Yes. Perfect combination.
I've talked about this plenty openly, but I love like super girthy sex toys, like ones that are gigantic and huge. And that's definitely not like a, you know, when you're just warming up thing to dive into, even for me. But that is certainly a thing I'm not, I don't know, known for would be the wrong way, but it's my specialty weird thing that I genuinely love, that people are like, okay, like this lady is brave. So that is what I would say is unique about my masturbation, is just like the really, really, really big toys.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you're proud about it, because I think, sure, porn has made everyone believe that we want big and want size and anything under is less. But I think there's a lot of women who genuinely do like that, because, you know, it's about key in a lock situation. And a lot of women might not be honest about that. I mean, I guess we've made it into like a size queen thing, but there's all the stigma revolving around like your actual size and how tight you are. And, you know, if you're just a gal that likes a lot, then you just got to fucking own it, you know? And there are plenty of dicks to go around, plenty of toys and items to go around.
Well, there's two sides to that. One is that the vaginal canal cannot be permanently altered by the things you put in it. Obviously, aside from extreme circumstances, obviously everybody has a limit, but aside from like physical injury, you're not doing any, like something where, I mean, I don't want to like go into detail, but like, unless you're literally like damaging unless you're like literally like ripping your vaginal opening, which is not something I have ever come close to ever doing or being close to doing, like you're gonna be fine. The muscles, when they are relaxed, they expand and contract. That's what muscles do. Just like when you exercise at the gym, you want to stretch your muscles before you really push them very far. And similarly, the vaginal canal is only going to be injured if you're pushing yourself past your limits into doing something that's painful. If it feels good and there's no discomfort, it's
I saw something online recently that was like, how are we still shaming women for having sex with too many people and get still suspended in the belief that it's going to make them wide and saggy and flappy, yet all of this time, women are having children out of their vagina. Literal human babies are coming out of their vagina and contracting and shrinking back to a normal size. And plenty of women don't tear and don't have any issues with it. So it's like, it's this idea that you can take, I mean, people get fisted on a regular basis.
And like with dicks, it's like, I think the jokes I at least see on the internet regarding the matter that just like everybody loves a worldwide average. There is so much like talk about size. And I think I don't know this for a literal fact, but I think the average person finds a larger penis painful often. Yeah. And, you know, sure, maybe there's someone who's like, oh yeah, that's my thing. But consider the alternative of what having your dick be so big that it's uncomfortable in a lot of circumstances. There's so much you can do with like a small dick. The G-spot is 2 to 3 inches inside the body, and shallow penetration is really important for G-spot stimulation. Mm-hmm. But also, having said that, like, people who are concerned about having a small dick, I would say, generally have pretty average-sized penises. And at the end of the day, it's only a problem if you see penis and vagina intercourse or anal, any type of intercourse, only if you see penetrative sex as the only type of sex that is available. I personally just couldn't care less about how someone's body is, because we just kind of get what we get, and we learn to work with what we've got. So I don't know. I just think that's a really misconstrued myth. And there are people who are like, I only want a huge dick, and it's like, okay, cool, so it sounds like you're looking for a sex toy and not a person. And that's because sex toys are for, like, the sex toys I use are so big that, like, they're not, like, there's just no way any
oh my god, how big are they?
Can you get one for us? Can you show us?
I mean, there could be one. There actually is not any. They're like in the closet over here. I would say anything over and I know imperial measurement system, but everything 2 inches in diameter and wider, I would say, is like a big toy.
Yeah.
So I guess
that is pretty wide.
2-inch
I was just
diameter.
Like, that is wide.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. Is like, it's like,
that is impressive. How do you actually, like, going into this, how do you warm yourself up for that? Like, what's the preparation involved in getting something that large inside you?
If you are aroused, and it's like, I mean, in my case, I'm just pretty used to this, and I basically, since I started buying sex toys, was going for the larger toys from day one. Wow. And it's really just a matter of, like, you should never have to force something into your body. Like, there's never any, like, physical forcing going on. If I am aroused enough, it can just happen. So with the really, really extremely large toys, though, I might, like, just, like, I don't know, I'll use, like, a 2-inch wide dildo before I'm using a 2.5-inch wide dildo.
Whoa.
But it's,
and
if I'm
lube, like, deep breathing, like what do you, what's the ritual here?
Vibration and lube, for sure. No, it's like, I mean, there is the rare occasion where maybe, like, I'm like, oh, I didn't put, like, the lube isn't covering all of the toy, and maybe, like, the worst thing that's gonna happen is I feel, like, a little bit sore, but that is the kind of thing that's lasting a couple of hours and then it goes away. Like, I've had my share of sex injuries, but it's not from that. That's pretty, especially when it's like you're guiding the toy yourself. You're, it's just hard to do something that's gonna, I'm not looking to impress anybody. It's just what my body wants. So it's just
too late, already impressed.
I feel like Guinness World Record holder for the largest,
the widest, the girthiest. She likes it thick. Is this the kind of content, if you don't mind sharing, do you put that kind of content on OnlyFans?
Flans.
Yes, it's on OnlyFans. And
beautiful.
The videos sell so well too. Like, say like that and fuck machine videos, aside from
my god,
videos with my boyfriend. But people like that. I think that people would not like that if it was not obvious that it's something I'm just into. It's my fun party trick, but it's also just organically what I am into.
It's a kink.
I guess so. I don't know. Like, to me, it's just normal. That's, like, the kind of toys I like, you know?
Yeah. So you have your sex toy shop. What inspired you to open that up in the first place? Why sex toys?
They are how I became orgasmic. I would not have had an orgasm without one. And, maybe I would have by now, but it would have been pretty difficult.
Yeah.
They were also something I was really freaked out by when I first went into a sex toy store. I felt very, like, intimidated and freaked out by it. And that really changed in a short period of time. I was living in New York and I was making art out of old sex magazines, just vintage porn, essentially.
Amazing.
And I had a friend who worked at a sex toy store say, you should apply to work at this store with me. And I did. And while I had, already discovered sex toys in my personal life then, just the intense day-to-day face-to-face conversations with people talking about sex for like really, really barely any money, just like basically New York minimum wage to talk to strangers about sex and sometimes be flashed your genitals and sometimes receive threatening phone calls.
Jesus.
Wow.
It was just like this, you're in this like very intense environment for your work. And I found a lot of inspiration to write from that, mostly good things. But that was how I got into writing. Writing is what got me a social media following. Starting my own sex toy store was really just kind of like I'm not shocked I've made it this far, but looking back with how little I knew back then, it is a pretty big deal that it succeeded, because a lot of the stuff I do, I just am kind of like figuring out as I go along. And I'm very thankful now to have a team that knows more than I do about sex toys so they can advise me. But I think I was just like, I see a lot of stores doing good things, but there's so much I would still change. It's so funny too, because it's not that I was not down with all the sex education stuff, but I didn't go to a school or a university where I was really like in the loop about stuff with language and gender and all that. I was very like open-minded and with the program, but I didn't like know about sex work as it actually exists in the world on a day-to-day basis. Or I didn't really I hadn't had somebody explain pronouns to me at that point. And that was stuff that was really easy for me to pick up, but it was kind of like this incubator where I learned all these things at once, learned a lot about sex and relationships and all that just so quickly. And it was like in the movie They Live, where you put the glasses on and you just like see the true ulterior. I would be watching TV and I was like, I can't believe this is so gendered. I can't believe this. And it was like this like aha moment, whatever. So I had this moment of seeing the light of being like, wow, I can't believe I didn't know all this stuff. And like, everybody should know this stuff.
That's hard though. Like nobody taught us. Especially being this age, it's only really now in the last couple of years that it's become more mainstream and become more integrated in like everyday life. Before, we just had no clue. We had no clue about gender and sexuality. I mean, like there was a time where we literally just thought it was straight, gay or bi. That was like it,
Remember metrosexual, which is a straight man.
Oh my God.
Who's very man.
Like,
that's like such a
flamboyant,
2005 word.
I heard that word this weekend.
Yeah, that was us stepping in the right direction, but getting it so fucking wrong.
It's really funny.
It was like on the newspapers, just like a well-manicured man that looks after themselves and like dresses well and shit. And it's like, he's metrosexual. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, it only applied to men too for some reason.
Madness. The same with sex work as well. Back then we thought that sex work was just prostitution and it was just having sex, penetrative intercourse for money. And that was it. And now it's like the term of sex work has come out and it's a huge amount of people do sex work. People don't realize that it's any act for money, any sexual act or dance or performance for money or goods, anything. And it covers so much. And I think a lot of people that have OnlyFans accounts still don't call themselves sex workers. They still see it as like branded with the brush of, oh, but I don't have penetrative sex. I don't sit on the streets getting into random people's cars like we've seen in the fucking movies. It's all kind of different now. But that's, the beauty of the internet, right? Education.
You know about like the whorearchy as a concept,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Going back to like what I thought about sex work as a 20-year-old versus now, it's like, even though I didn't have any negative opinions, you're right, I still like the mainstream portrayal of sex work was all I really had to go off of. And it wasn't until I met people who were in porn and in sex work that I was like, oh, this is, you know, obviously a lot different and I have a lot to learn and this all makes complete sense. And to this day, that's why I love not just with sex work, but anything sex related. I think that it's not that people won't agree with it. They just don't even have the information. Like, it's truly the first time that people have heard certain concepts or like, especially relevant right now in the United States and definitely elsewhere, but I'm only in the loop for US stuff regarding this. But like, the average person conflates, you know, human trafficking and sex work, and that's a huge issue we're seeing right now with.
Yeah. Even my dad had like a really awful conversation with him once about like me doing OnlyFans stuff and him saying that it was like feeding into this world of sex trafficking. And I was like, where are you getting this information from? Like, why do these two things come hand in hand to you? But that is just the way a certain generation does see this. And it's so baffling, I think, once we're in this world and we've learned about all this stuff, to see other people still feeling this way.
I think our generation also feels that way, to be quite honest. And
do you think
people who are in our outer circle, in our general friend group or people we associate with, probably less so. But I think younger generations and, you know, like millennials and Gen Z are just as like biased against it as everybody else. And we're just not aware of that because of like the company we keep. And I also find it's really like people who you would think are on the same page as you, but just have like one thing kind of wrong about it.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking to this like boomer the one time, and he was saying about how, oh, you know, like he's like, yeah, people should identify however they want and like sexual orientation, but he's like, but bisexuals need to make up their mind. And I was like, whoa, like it's like,
what?
It's like so many things.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like so
Ouch.
many people
Just makes no sense.
with the program to a certain point, and then you're like, whoa, no, that is like you took a left turn there. And I think it's the same with sex work.
Even in the industry, like in the adult industry, I saw it time and time again where, say, I would be working on the babe channels where the girls would shake their phones and then they'd be like, oh no, I would never do webcamming. No, that's not for me. And then it was like almost this weird judgment backlash of, oh, I would never have sex for money. I would never do that. Like, oh, that's gross. They meet up and like, you know, they get a massage. He like worships her feet for money. It was this weird like hierarchical idea of what sex work is. And I think that is the misinformation. It's like thinking or justifying what you do for yourself, but judging other people with what they choose to do. And that's like sex workers who are actually sex workers still thinking like that. And I think humans do that all the time, you know, like I catch myself doing it. I'm like, oh, yeah, let's not judge anyone. And then all of a sudden I'm like, you're having a baby? Like, what? Like, that's how, why, you know? And then I'm like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, why do I even think that I'm allowed an opinion on this? That's just something that maybe I don't necessarily want for me right now. So why am I even saying that? We all do it. You're right. Like, people would be like, I'm really cool with this, but like, this part of it is not okay. It's just mind-blowing, really.
Yeah, I think a way that's really relevant in like just what I've been thinking about a lot lately is financial discrimination in the sex industry, because I'm mostly involved in the sex toy side of things. And then there's, of course, like also the adult industry, which is related but not the same thing. Yeah. And I think a really good illustration of this is that there are payment processors who won't work with any of us. And then there are payment processors who will work with people who are selling sex toys, but not adult content. And in the sex toy industry, it's like, why would we align with a group that, and like, this isn't any particular person's opinion, but it's like this life raft of like, oh, okay, well, they'll accept us even though they don't accept these people. So like, let's take this opportunity while we have it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't blame that being how the industry has evolved, because like everyone is so put in such difficult decisions that it's like the second someone's like, oh, but I can rescue my business by doing this. I mean, I'm not doing a good job of describing this, but basically like if we all band together, we are more powerful together.
Yeah.
I think that people want to scapegoat the problem further down the line, or what they see as further down the line, because at the end of the day, the adult industry is much more vulnerable in the eyes of like the government and the way that there are restrictions and discrimination in your world. Because I'm a part of both worlds, I think about that a lot. And not that they aren't two different industries. Like one is like more traditional retailing of product. It's just sexual product in nature. And then the other is performing, entertaining, producing, directing, distributing, all that. And it's, you know, sexually explicit content. And I'm involved in both, more so in product section. And I guess I keep finding it so interesting how separated the two are. Yeah. And, you know, like it makes sense. Like that's also why academia doesn't want to associate with sex toys and porn and all that. It's like, not that people are against it, but they're like, well, the second we start bringing you into the fold of what we do, we suddenly have all these resources we're cut off from all these basic resources. So people don't want to, even if they support something and they are like, this is unfair that this is happening, I think it's really hard. Like people don't want to further put themselves in a more vulnerable position. And so that's why we have this like hierarchy. And like, that doesn't pertain to like the hierarchy in the same way. You're like trying to rationalize something by throwing somebody else under the bus, I guess. Yeah. Even if that's not like somebody's intention.
Yeah. And I think because it's so hard in this space to earn money and to earn a living in the sex related world, because of all these things, when we do have a life raft to grab onto, people will grab onto it, right? I guess it was like when the whole OnlyFans thing happened, and suddenly it was like, well, I even had this thought at the time because I hadn't been putting explicit content out there. I was like, well, I'm safe actually. Like I've still got, like, I can still post everything that I want to post. So I'm going to continue working with OnlyFans. But everyone else, and I do explicit content now. Like, you know, it was such like a weird moment where I did kind of cling to that I'm okay moment.
Yeah, because I don't do explicit. Yeah. God, that felt like such a fucking slap on the wrist. For a company that's literally earning their billions through explicit sex work, and they're like, nope, gonna take that away. Like, see how you do.
There are obvious institutions that are like really doing a particularly shitty job.
It was all the bank cards, right? It was like MasterCard and Visa that have been influenced or heavily influenced by very religious organizations that they just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. You know, like they were getting funding from these big organizations, and then they were like, no, OnlyFans is porn and bad, so you need to stop working with them. And I mean, gratefully that OnlyFans turned around and was like, okay, sure, we'll stick at this, but we still haven't really seen any support as sex workers from them. They've just allowed us to stay on their platform, and the same issue might happen again. It's so fucking uncertain. How has your experience been with OnlyFans? Have you found any patterns? I mean, both Florence and I are finding at the moment, now we're sort of out of the lockdown, which was amazing for OnlyFans. Everyone was buying and subscribing and paying and porn, and now afterwards, it's like the aftermath of people going like actually picking and choosing what they want to spend their money on.
I would say though that to the contrary, sex related And, the larger way of categorizing these industries would be vice industries. So cannabis, alcohol, sex, things that are no good, whatever. These are all quote unquote recession proof, people have always said, because no matter what's happening in the world, people are still going to want to fuck. People are still going to be drinking. People are still going to be smoking. People are still going to, it's things that let us blow off steam and are kind of like touching on some like core comfort need in some way. That's not to say it doesn't affect the industry, but I think it's like sex is never just going to go away, even when things are, when money is really tight. I do think that there is always going to be a space for it in the world. It's just that important and robust of a world. And, before I talk about OnlyFans on a personal note, a really good example that comes to mind too of about like throwing people under the bus is how, even if you don't watch porn, like I find myself so annoyed when I'm talking about Pornhub and what happened with like Visa and MasterCard and them. The latest is that like Utah, the state of Utah has banned Pornhub. So you get like as in VPNs don't exist anyway.
Wow.
I hate when I'm talking about this and other like-minded people are like, yeah, but like fuck Pornhub. I don't like Pornhub. I don't watch Pornhub.
Yeah, so damaging.
And I'm like, this is not about how you feel about this particular brand or company. Mike Stabile. Oh God, I'm messing his name up so terribly. But he was he's one of the directors at Free Speech Coalition, and he said in that like Money Shot Pornhub documentary that's on Netflix, porn is the canary in the coal mine. So even if you do not engage with porn, and specifically for freedom of expression, but other freedoms in general, and I know that is a very uniquely American thing, but I do think that like quote unquote First Amendment stuff is so fascinating, because even if you are like, I never watch porn, fuck porn, I don't like Pornhub, blah, 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 at the end of the day, people are still going to find a way to watch porn. People are still going to want porn. And if we limit and prohibit it, we're making it more dangerous for the people who create it. And we're also making we're pushing everything further underground.
Which is harder to regulate.
And the only statistics we have on the matter say that like domestic violence has an inverse relationship with like access to sexual material, for instance, like access to legal sex work and prostitution is decreasing instances of intimate partner violence. Like every bit of data that we do have on this is not showing that porn is making us more violent. It's showing us that we have we are blowing off steam.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a desire that people have. So just because you don't like porn, if you are banning porn, suddenly everyone's scrambling around finding alternative methods of, finding that sexually stimulating material.
Yeah.
It's just like, you can't just make it go away. It's the same with the prohibition in alcohol in the US.
We're okaying Pornhub, right? Pornhub is okay at the moment. They went and did a huge video cull and got rid of everything that didn't belong to a verified user. So if you go on Pornhub, it's okay. It is pretty much, well, I know 100%, but like as ethical as OnlyFans can be.
You're going to find fucked up shit on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and every part of the internet.
Yes, this is very true.
Pornhub specifically, but also just the adult industry in general is the scapegoat for larger issues. And we are failing to address like what the root issue is that is causing people to want to create unacceptable, like why does inappropriate content, and by inappropriate I mean like abuse and non-consensual content, like what is prompting people to make this in the first place? Because if we don't address the root issue,
this is such an important point of view, and I think something that we haven't really touched on that much on the podcast in a long time.
Enough.
And really surprised to hear about Utah. I didn't know about that. That's fucked up. Like this, if this country couldn't get even crazier, like what's happening? That's why it's super important to be talking about these things. So like, thank you so much for bringing that up on this episode. Really, really, really good.
Just follow Free Speech Coalition if you want to be kept in the loop about stuff. They do cover things outside of the US as well, but I think that's a really good place to get information about legislative changes, because there's a lot of stuff. Like, stuff will be happening, and unless you're like specifically seeking out that information, you're going to be blindsided when then it's like, oh, surprise. Like,
yeah.
The age verification laws in Louisiana now, like, they're trying to, I don't know if this has passed yet, but there's a lot of states now trying to be like, you have to enter your government ID if you want to watch porn. And like,
wow,
there's a million things wrong with that. I think people are like, what? Like, I didn't know about this. And it's like, yeah, because how would you know unless you're like actively looking for this information? It's
so
just
true.
Slips on by you.
Yeah, we need to get a VPN sponsoring the podcast so that we can just like save everyone's ass.
Yeah, definitely do it.
Yeah.
Imagine. I forgot to ask you, when you were talking about your sex toys, what's your favorite sex toy that you sell on your shop?
I mean, there's so many different ways to answer that. Magic wand is obviously like,
yes,
gonna forever be a favorite. Enjoy Pure Wand. I really like the Vic Skin Maverick and the Fun Factory Big Boss. And I don't know. Those are like my favorite go-to ones at the moment, but there's always like minor characters being added and subtracted, but those are the mainstays.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I feel like our listeners really love like toy recommendations, because sometimes there's just so much stuff out there. So you want people to be telling you what they do use in rotation.
But everyone likes different stuff. So
very
don't
true.
Take my recommendations as the gospel on what's the best, just my preference.
You just have to try everything.
Is there a favorite toy that you like using for OnlyFans? Is there like your go-to, or do you take requests? As you said, you use your partner a lot. I didn't mean it like that. Like use their body. I like Magic Wand Mini for OnlyFans because it's like, hello. It's just a smaller magic wand, so it's obstructing the view a bit less.
Yeah.
I don't really like to use compact vibrators or suction toys because having to put my hand so close to it like just covers up the view too much. So
of course,
even though it's kind of counterintuitive to want to use a wand since it is an overall larger item, it's like easier to keep it out of the line of view.
That's so interesting.
It's like why glass dildos are really good for video. It feels like you can see everything, and like when you use big toys, it's just like, yeah, it covers up so much. And what we want to see, which is what we've probably been programmed to see in porn, is like that really uncomfortable position, but where you get to see everything, like all of the penetration. People don't do that in real life, but we like seeing that. I like seeing that fucking detail.
On that subject, if someone hadn't ever tried a sex toy before, what would your advice be? How would you get into using toys? Where would you start?
Go with your intuition, because you will see something and be like, that speaks to me. Obviously, you can't know what something's going to feel like without actually having used it. But I do think that even if you've used no toys, like if you finger yourself and you use 4 fingers, like go for a girthier toy. If you like really intense clitoral stimulation, go for a more intense vibrator. But if you want to play it safe, just go with something that has versatility. I'm not a huge fan of the toys that try to smoosh like 5 toys into one. I think like if something has more than like 2 or 3 functions, it's kind of like just overdoing it. A vibrator that could be used externally or inserted gives you at least those options of like, are using it internally or externally, just stuff like that. If you don't like using it one way, then there's other ways you can enjoy it.
Nice. Good advice.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
We asked our listeners if they wanted to ask you any specific questions.
All right.
So we've got one question from a curious fucker that says, SOS, libido is lower than my partner's. How do I match his when sex isn't a priority for me?
Great question.
It is.
First of all, you're never going to have an identical libido as your partner. If you did, that would be like a statistical anomaly. So a lot of partnership is compromising. And by compromising, I do not mean do whatever your partner tells you to do. That means if you're the person with the higher libido, like maybe you're going to be masturbating a bit more and not like relying on partnered sex. And maybe if you are the person with the lower libido, it means like, hey, I need these particular things to get me more into the mood. And I need you to, do X, Y, and Z, and that will make me feel more in the mood. But
yes,
at the end of the day, like it's going to be mismatched always. And you just gotta be, I don't know. I think like I've just had such a shift in the way I see partnership and relationships, where I used to just solely select a partner based on sexual compatibility. And now it's like, is this person my best friend and do I love talking to them? Great. Then we're going to make our sex life also fit in accordance with that. There's always going to be some adjusting that's needed. So, see the relationship for bigger than what it is. And it's not just sex. It's how you communicate, and you get to figure out what that middle ground is for you based on your needs.
Reading Come As You Are really helped me understand libidos and what kind of goes into accelerating your libido and all of that. So I think that would be a really good place to start with, because when what you said reminded me of that, which was finding things that do turn you on and like getting you in that mood. Like, what is that for you? Because that's, I think, a really key part of that information that people quite ignore quite a lot of the time.
Right. This is kind of a hard one to read. How to find out what you like with yourself when you've gotten kind of numb to your own touch.
I mean, I think it's funny to hear somebody say numb to your own touch, because usually when we hear people talk about desensitization, they're talking about sex toys, which is not like medically or scientifically something that sex toys do with any type of stimulation. You're getting adjusted to it over time. And if you're not switching it up in some way or having breaks and pauses in what you're doing, it's going to feel monotonous no matter what it is. So this is maybe not directly related, but I always use this like analogy of, if you're sitting in a vibrating massage chair that's, you're at the mall and you're sitting in one of those massage chairs for an hour, and then somebody tries to give you a hand massage afterwards, you're going to be like, that doesn't really feel like much. I just sat in this chair for an hour having this machine go to town on me. So it's not going to feel as dramatic as like someone just massaging your neck after not having sat in a massage chair for an hour. But also that's only like a limited time frame. Like if a day goes by, a few hours goes by, you would feel like, this feels like a new sensation to me again. So it's just like, if your brain is used to the same neural pathways being stimulated over and over and over again, like we all crave novelty sexually. And that doesn't mean go fuck a new person. That just means switch up what you're doing with that person, switch up what you're doing with yourself, change the environment, change the toy, change up what you're watching or not watching or thinking about. I think just getting into versatility. But it's also, having said that, like I love masturbating the same way, and like I never find it boring.
Same.
But I'm absolutely like I wish I could expand my horizons a little bit more. So I think this is something that everybody experiences in one way or another. And I also just think it's important, like if you are orgasmic and having orgasms or are touching yourself and feeling pleasure, that's really awesome. And not everybody is there. So I think having the anxiety about like, how do I keep things new and stimulating? And like, obviously nobody wants to feel a sense of numbness or desensitization, whether that's like literally physically or inside. But yeah, we gotta keep things, gotta have variety.
Yeah, that actually answered one of the other questions that I was gonna bring up, but I don't think we have time for any more questions, but we would love to end this episode with you telling us your fuck off story.
I'll start off, I guess, by just saying I wrote an article called "I've slept with 99 people and I'm looking for number 100" when I was like 23.
Wow.
And I think that had a lot of people being like, what? I don't think that is like particularly that strange, but I think for some people it is.
Definitely.
I think it's just something that people don't talk about enough or that often, or even like know the number. Like I probably have slept with like 200, 300 people, but I've got no idea what the number is.
I also think that we always hear men talking about things and they're always like, yeah, like into the hundreds, like all of this. And you don't often hear women saying like, yeah, I've slept with 99 people, especially at the age of 23. So I think that's really cool that you
it freaks people
put that out there. Yeah.
People are like instantly like, no, your poor vagina, it must be so massive. Like,
well, it's funny because it's like my criteria for like fuck off is like the things I've talked about that have made it into the Daily Mail. You know what I mean? Like it's shocking enough that the Daily Mail wants to talk about it. So that was the first time I got featured.
No way. They stole that.
I have a completely different relationship with it as an American. It's not as omnipotent in my life.
Well, congratulations, 99.
That's some good shit. Yeah, we're seeing a bit of a change with the industry, especially the media industry around sex. So I think it's like writers like you who actually bring a sex positive light rather than like shaming the peeps, which we've seen all too often. And yeah, I think we're going to have to round up the episode, which is such a shame because it's been a pleasure chatting to you,
so
Zoe.
Amazing.
Thanks for having me.
So can you tell us where our curious fuckers can find you, find everything about you? Plug it all.
SpectrumBoutique.com. We are Shop Spectrum Boutique on Instagram. And I am Thongria, Thongria, on Instagram, Twitter, OnlyFans, basically everywhere. Carnal knowledge, sex education you didn't get in school is available wherever books are sold. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Definitely go and check Zoe out. This conversation has been amazing. If you enjoyed it, please share it around with your friends, family, loved ones, lovers, everyone at the kink parties.
Yes, yeah, please do. And of course, if you want to keep up to date with what we get up to, follow our Instagram at Come Curious and our personal accounts Read Amber X and Florence Bark.
Remember to give us a rating and a review because it helps get our message into more people's ears. And as you heard on this episode, how important that is and how important these discussions are. So thank you, Curious Fuckers, for being here and listening and being part of this community and world. It means so much to all of us. And we will see you next Thursday.
See you next Thursday. Bye. Bye.